Hey, here we go. Check this out.
This is Whole Nother Level with Dwayne Lindo.
You know, frankly, I feel that we shouldn't even be talking about this. Simple as that.
The great L. Bushman.
They'd have to make so many adjustments, but I don't know what they have to do. They need a miracle. They need a miracle.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Craig Cousins.
How can you not put Tom Brady number one on the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks? Man, this guy's a legend. Rings speak.
And Derek Wilson.
I didn't know Eric was going to let you talk.
Don't hate the player, hate the game. I've seen enough Facebook posts to know that you're not a Giants fan. Let's go.
What is up, guys? It is a whole nother level. Yes, you're hearing my voice as the intro today. A little different. I am L. Bushman, and of course, to my left is the factual Frank Mazzei. Frank, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. So we are actually a few guys short today. Eric is, doing Eric things. He's taking a day off. Craig's up in St. Pete at a resort, and Dwayne is out on assignment right now. So it's me and Frank to hold down Whole Nother Level today. It's going to be a good show. I actually have not hosted a show since my old show, The Sports Arena, on Raw Talk Online. So this is it's a little bit of a, hey, I'm back as the host. It's going to be a little bit weird. It's going to be a little bit strange, but hey, it's going to be a whole nother level. It's going to be a good show today. We have a lot to go into. We've got our picks for this week. We're going to discuss some fantasy football stuff, among other things. Sorry. So we want to hear from you guys. 813-699-5353. We are on Facebook Live. We'll be on our live feed for YouTube in a little bit later once the replay goes in. But we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear your thoughts about fantasy football and your picks as well when we discuss them. But Frank, I want to get into first the Thursday night game, our flip of the coin game of last week or this week, the Bills versus the Jets. And we picked the Jets. We both did.
Yes.
And, the Jets, of course, pulled out with a win. A very nice win. I think it was a little bit of redemption for Ryan Fitzpatrick to come in. I mean, he had a great game. He had some really good help from Matt Forte. Damn you, Matt Forte. That's fantasy stuff later. We'll talk about that. A little scare with Brandon Marshall in the first quarter. Looked like he came down on his knee. Looked like he sprained it, but came back in and had a decent game as well. But the big headline of that game was the day after, the Bills fired their offensive coordinator. Why?
Yeah, because that was the problem in that game.
Yeah.
It clearly was the offense.
I guess maybe there was a coup d'etat with this deal is maybe, hey, now Rex has now the ability to go, hey, well, my brother used to be a defensive coordinator. Why don't I just slip him into the position now because it's vacant? I mean, honestly, you fired the wrong guy. This is the guy that's actually helping your team out, but you fired him. You fired your offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, for putting points up on the scoreboard. Little strange.
2 games in. I mean, okay, granted, game 1, their offense looked bad. I mean, they didn't really do much of anything. I think it was like 163 total yards. Okay, but game 2, I mean, after 2 games, I mean, Buffalo last year led the NFL in rushing. Led it. I mean, most yards per carry, most rushing yards. I mean, and look, Tyrod Taylor, I mean, nobody's going to confuse him and ever say really passing quarterback per se.
Right. You know, I just, it boggles my mind of what goes on with the Bills organization. And it looks like they let Rex Ryan have a free reign of whatever he does. And to me, this should be the last maybe year of Rex Ryan. I think we can all agree that the Ryan boys are better as coordinators than they are as head coaches because you're starting off the season 0-2. Not a good look. You could be the bottom dweller of the AFC East. I mean, honestly, this could be. I want to say this should be the last year of Rex Ryan and Buffalo. It should be. I think.
I do too, and I'm pretty sure because Buffalo has new owners. I think the team just was purchased last year, so you got a new ownership group coming in, and that was part of the deal. What they said was that he met with Rex and the GM, and they were like, "No, we need this, we need that. We'll make it work." And basically, his response from what people have said was, "Okay, you got 1 year. If it doesn't work after what we've given you, then and to go 0-2, I mean, look, and honestly, they're going to be in trouble this year.
You know, and they're a decent team, too. They've got LaShawn McCoy in the backfield. Now, they are a little bit hurt in the wide receiver position. I mean, Sammy Watkins did play a little bit hurt. He didn't really do much. He's got a couple screws in his foot, so he is playing hurt. They are not going to shut him down. So, you know, offensively, they are a little bit hurt right now. I mean, they got Charles Clay as your tight end. I mean, Tyrod Taylor's not a bad quarterback.
No.
He's not a bad – he's a mobile quarterback. He's got a big arm. So, I mean, their offense, which they did on Thursday night, they put up a lot of points. So why fire your offensive coordinator still boggles my mind. I think they should maybe take a little bit of that power away from Rex and not let him do bonehead things. I can just see it now. We've said this before the show that we might see his brother just slide into that defensive coordinator job because now it's vacant.
Yeah, and
now
look,
it's vacant.
I mean, the guy that he's promoting to offensive coordinator has been with him, I think, at 2 other places. So I mean, he's clearly like one of his guys.
Right.
So, and Greg Roman, I mean, look, you could say what you want about their offense. I mean, Greg Roman was Jim Harbaugh's offensive coordinator. I'm pretty sure if you can be Jim Harbaugh's offensive coordinator,
I think you're doing okay.
Exactly. You got to
doing
at
all
least
right.
be pretty smart or, you know, at least know a little bit about offense.
Right, correct. So we want to hear your thoughts about this, guys. 813-699-5353. I want to slide into the next game. This game I always look forward to each and every year. Frank, I know you do. It's the Bengals versus the Steelers. Every single year, this to me is like a WWE fight, almost a UFC fight, because these two teams hate each other. Yeah. They hate each other so much that they get in fights all the time. This is the game I look forward to because they play each other a couple times during the year, and every time something crazy happens, fights go on. This is why I love the game of football, is because rivalries like this happen, and no better rivalry is the Bengals and the Steelers because they hate each other so much. So Frank, let me ask you a quick question. What do you see out of this game? Do you see another physical just drag-out fight, or do you see a maybe not so much this time?
I think it's going to be physical because that's just how these teams go. I mean, actually, this is how the AFC North it goes. I mean, and that's what I like about it is, you know, because with players today, everybody wants to be friends, even on other teams, exchanging jerseys and all that, whatever. Teams in the AFC North, they really don't like each other.
No, they don't.
Pittsburgh, Baltimore, the Bengals, even the Browns, even though the Browns aren't really doing anything, still don't like the Browns. And it's a physical division, and I expect a physical game today.
Oh. So we've got a caller calling in. Just give me 1 second. All right, you are on with Whole Nother Level. Who are we talking to?
What's going on, fellas? It's your man, E-Dubs.
Eric, what is going on? A little premature. We're not even talking about the Eagles yet, buddy.
How you doing?
Listen, I had a couple questions I needed to ask y'all as I was tuning in, listening to y'all.
Of course.
First thing, you can't ask Frank anything about the Cincinnati Bengals because the are going to be positive. So you might just forget that, number one. Number two, I have to give credit where credit is due. Frank, when you talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, you talk about how they breed wide receivers, and we've seen it over the past couple of years. I mean, since pretty much the mid-'90s and to present. But I'll tell you what we saw out of Jesse James Monday night, to slide in and replace Heath Miller, man, that's going to be a dude to keep your eye on throughout the rest of the season.
I totally agree with you on that, and he's got a great name too.
Yeah,
just a great name.
I mean, and he's the backup.
Yeah.
I mean, they signed Ladarius Green, who's not even playing. So I mean, Jesse James, now he's the starting tight end, but he was the second stringer.
So Eric, let me ask you a quick question. Now let's go back to the Jets-Bills game. You know, this whole firing of Greg Norman, what do you think is going on in Rex Ryan's head right now? What is the mentality you think is going on in Buffalo where, you know, they're firing a coach that's actually helping your team outscore points, but you fire him for I don't think they gave a really good reason either. So let me hear your thoughts on that.
Listen, here's my thing about that. Clearly the Ryan brothers went to the owners and said, okay, we know the defense screwed up, but my mom said that I can't fire my brother, so we got to get rid of somebody. So let's just whoever drew the short straw. And unfortunately, it was the offensive coordinator, so now he's gone. Listen, the Ryan brothers, they both need to be, I heard what you said, Evan, and I completely agree with you. One, if not both of the Ryan brothers, need to be gone after this season if they can't find a way to turn it around. You're starting the season 0-2, 0-1 in the division. Yeah, it was a short week. You're playing an injured Sammy Watkins who, sometimes you got to tell the player, we need you healthy. And I understand Sammy wants to play. He wants to get his numbers. He feels that he can produce, but you're not being effective on the field.
And that's the bad thing. They don't really have any other options at the wide receiver position. That's the bad thing. They pretty much have him. And, they have Charles Clay as your tight end, but there's so much you can go around. And I understand, if you are playing a Sammy Watkins that's maybe, I would say, less than 50% healthy because of his foot, your option is to run the ball. They weren't really doing that effective against the Jets on Thursday.
And here's my thing. You've got a mobile quarterback in Tyrod Taylor, and you have I don't know if you still want to call him a top 10 running back in LaShawn McCoy, because clearly him running south, east, and west is not helping. He needs to figure out how to run north and south and make plays. But aside from that, the Buffalo Bills just do not have it together. And if this is a preview of what the rest of their season is going to be like, both Rex and Rob Ryan need to just polish off their resumes and start looking for work somewhere else. But I have a question for the factual Frank. All right, Frank, you are an individual who is not a fan of Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I want to know your assessment of what you've seen out of him these first 2 weeks. Because granted, yes, they lost to Cincinnati, but they lost to Cincinnati only by 1. Then he turns around and rebounds, distributes the ball to all the players, Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, Enunwa, Matt Forte. There was a fourth wide receiver. I don't even remember his name. How do you see Fitzpatrick now after these 2 games?
Thanks for saying that third wide receiver's name, because I was I was trying to think of it. I was like, who is this guy? I was like, look, he played a good game. I mean, I can't. I mean, there's not much fault I can find. I mean, and by all accounts, they should have beat the Bungles. I believe there was an extra point that was missed in that game, and they only ended up losing by 1. So I mean, they had opportunity there to win that game. Look, he looked good. I mean, Buffalo made him look. I mean, Buffalo might be one of the few teams that could make Ryan Fitzpatrick look like Tom Brady. But I'll give him credit. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't have a problem with him being in the league. I would want him on my team as my backup quarterback. But I've just, as a starter and big money dollars and everything, I look at the body of work, the resume, the wins, more so the losses, because the losses are way more than the wins. And that's what makes me uneasy about the Jets. I like everything about the Jets, really, except that position. I mean, their defense is pretty sturdy. Their defensive line is maybe one of the best in the league. And Matt Forte, a girl got I don't even know how many points she got off of Matt Forte in the fantasy league this week.
It was a lot, because I'm playing against a guy that has him, and I have him on one of my other teams. So it was like a win-lose for me. It was a draw, because I'm rooting for my team, but I don't want the guy to score any more points. It sucks. So, Eric, while we have you on the phone, why don't we jump towards Monday night's game? The Bears and the...
No. Y'all do your thing. I'll call back in a little bit.
Okay, all right, Eric.
Get out the way about the Jets. But, no, as always, I'm tuning in, listening. Y'all sound great. I'll call back. Don't let me... dictate how we're going to run the show. I'm not there today, El Bushman. You're running the show. Do your thing. I'll call y'all back in a little bit.
All right, Eric. We'll hear from you in a few. All right, man. Guys, that was Eric E-Dubs, the host of the Whole Nother Level show. He'll be calling back when we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and the Bears for the Monday night game. So let's get back into the Bengals and the Steelers game, Frank. And we were talking about being a physical game. We were talking about how we love to watch this game each and every year. Now, the one thing I think is the key for the Bengals to do is to keep Andy Dalton protected. They were sacked 7 times by the Jets last week. 7 times. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So they need to protect him and totally. And what they also need to do is open up some more lanes for Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard, because they weren't doing that at all against the Jets. And with Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh is not the same defense we've seen from of old. We've talked about this on the show before, because now you're in a I would say a transitional period for the Steelers defense, don't you think?
It is, because Dick LeBeau had been there for so many years, and then this is Keith Butler's second year as the defensive coordinator, and also Mike Tomlin has some. You can start to see his influence on that defense now. Because when Dick LeBeau was there, you're not really going to say much to him, and Tomlin pretty much gave him free reign and let him run that defense however he wanted, even though Tomlin is a defensive guy, but now that LeBeau is gone, you start to see, some molding of it. And look, they had a lot of guys retire all at once. I mean, Ike Taylor, Troy Polamalu, guys that are gone. So it is in transition. The secondary is bad. It was 30th last year. And look, they're starting a rookie. So that's going to be their Achilles heel. But their front seven finished in the top 10. So, the linebacking core is young. You got 3 first-round picks there. The defensive line is legitimate. So I'm hoping that Andy Dalton is on his back about as much as he was in that Jets game.
Now, what do you think is the key to shutting down A.J. Green in the secondary? Because, they're going up against A.J. Green.
I know, and look, A.J. Green's going to get his. I mean, look, the way he blew by Darrelle Revis, even though Revis is not what he used to be, he's still a decent cornerback, and Pittsburgh doesn't have anybody that's even in an old Darrelle Revis's category, if you will. Look, Davis, their safety, he played some corner in college. He's a safety with cover skills, so that's going to be good to help in the secondary. You're going to have to do that. Look, don't leave A.J. Green. Don't leave him out there one-on-one. I mean, look, he's going to he'll abuse the secondary. That front seven's going to have to get pressure on Dalton quick.
I totally agree with you. One thing, I do have the Steelers beating the Bengals in this one, Frank, and I'm sure you have the Steelers beating the Bengals in this one too. I'm sure you are, right?
I do.
I think the key is to give D'Angelo Williams the ball. That was the key to the first game. David DeCastro and Roman Foster did a great job opening the lanes for him. And I said this last week on the show that for some reason, I know he's 33, and 33 for a running back position is pretty old by NFL standards, but this is a guy who could start on a team and do quite well. So, having this guy fill in for Le'Veon Bell is perfect for the Steelers, doing a great job. And, of course, we can't leave out Antonio Brown, probably the best wide receiver in the game right now. I have Steelers. I had this as a close game. I do have this as a close game. I have this 27-24, but I just see an all-out brawl with these two teams. I think the Steelers, and I picked them to be 13-3 in the division, so I had them winning this game. So, Frank, what do you got on this game?
I have the Steelers winning as well. Look, Pittsburgh actually does way better when they play the Bengals in Cincinnati. I mean, their record in Cincinnati is better, so it is concerning because Cincinnati has gone in there and beaten Pittsburgh a few times at home. So it's not a gimme game. Look, the best thing about D'Angelo Williams is that he's got the offensive line that he's running behind. Pouncey didn't play all of last year. I mean, in Pittsburgh, getting him back, that's,
huge.
Exactly.
Huge.
He might be the best, get back, if you will, of any team. Marcus Wheaton should be playing in game 2. He didn't play in the first game. And look, those guys that stepped, Eli Rogers, Sammy Coates, Jesse James, you're going to have to do it again because Cincinnati's defense is, I would say it's probably a little better than Washington Redskins' defense. So I don't think the points or the yards are going to come as easy, but I still think that Pittsburgh can do it.
All right, guys, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to go into the Fins and Pats, and if Craig, of course, he is listening, I'm sure he'll chime in on who he picks for that one. Surprise, surprise, it might be the Pats. We'll go over the Bucks and Cards, and then we'll move into the other games as well. I want to go over to the Detroit game, too, because I think that the Detroit Lions are going to surprise some people on Sunday. And, of course, we've got some fantasy football to go over for you guys as well. I know you guys got your DraftKings and your FanDuels going as well. So, 813-699-5353, HNL3.com, and Raw Talk Online and Spreaker.com. We are live. This is Whole Nother Level.
Get through.
What is up, guys? We are back. It is a whole nother level. Before we went on break, we were touching on the Bengals and Steelers. We want to get into, this game. I don't even know if we should consider this a game. It's the Pats and the Fins. The Pats single-handedly came into Arizona with some backups, some fill-in guys, and surprised the hell out of people. They surprised me. I know they surprised you, Frank.
Yep.
So, let me ask you this. What can we expect with the Pats and Fins game? What can we see? What is this going to be even a game to watch this week?
I want to say yes because, and Craig, if you're listening, you might understand my argument here is that even when Miami is bad, and they have been bad, they still managed to take a game from New England here and there. And so it's more they seem to play them tough. And honestly, I can't get too excited about what Miami did in week 1, even though
they could have won the game.
Exactly. Going to Seattle, I got to see, is that just, it's the first game. Did Seattle just not show up, and that's why? Or did Miami get that much better with Adam Gase? I mean, after at least this game, playing Seattle and playing New England, Miami's going to have a good idea of where they are after 2 games because, they're both really good teams.
Right. And I always have so much, I wouldn't say faith in the Dolphins. I have so much, I just say, I look at them and they're like, oh, this used to be the Dolphins, the team we used to win a lot with the Dan Marino era. Even when Chad Pennington used to play for the Dolphins, they used to win a lot. Yep. But now it's just that this Dolphins team has gone through so many coaches, gone through so many quarterbacks. I mean, and I said this too, Tannehill, this is his coming out year. This is the guy, he needs to take the reins of this team and lead them to the victory. So just the look on his face when Kenny Stills dropped that ball against Seattle, it was the look of, this is how my season is going to go? Like, really? I mean, they're playing New England. Jimmy G's he's controlling this offense. I mean, this is his team to lead for a couple more games before Tom Brady comes back. I really wish this would be a close game, but I have the Finns just getting their butts whooped by New England, Frank. I mean, what do you say? What do you think about this?
I have New England winning as well. I mean, I couldn't even. I wouldn't even go out on that limb and say that the Dolphins are going into Foxborough and win it. Now, if they do, man,
I'll be surprised as well.
Yeah, all the credit in the world. I will say, Jimmy G, you need to throw Martellus Bennett the ball a little bit more. I'm glad I had him on the bench last game because if I'd have had him in, I'd have gotten basically zilch out of him.
I was unfortunately starting in Martellus Bennett last game and got a measly 5 points. 3 catches. 3 catches. You can't give him more than 3 catches for that game. This is a guy that was one of the top 5 tight ends last year when he was in Chicago. He's replacing Gronk, and you can't throw him the ball? Come on, man. That's my come on, man, for last week. Is you can't throw. I was like hoping. I drafted him high. I drafted him pretty high for a tight end too, and this is all you can give me is 3 catches. I mean, I know you got to spread the ball around, but come on.
That's how I thought about John Brown.
Killing me, Smalls. So speaking of John Brown, let's get into the Bucs and the Cardinals. A game that's been getting a lot of buzz this week.
Yeah.
And I think it's mostly because a lot of people are saying, hey, the Bucs go into Arizona and maybe shock the world. I think the Bucs are legit. Now, of course, I know the Bucs are legit because I'm a huge Bucs fan. And I really do think this is going to be a great game. The key for the Bucs in this game to me is you got to keep doing what you did last week, spreading the ball around.
Yep.
Because they're going against Arizona's defense. And granted, you've got a rookie corner and you've got Patrick Peterson. It's a great matchup with Patrick Peterson and also Mike Evans. But I think with Jameis, he's going to spread the ball around because if you put that rookie corner on Vincent Jackson, granted, Vincent Jackson's a little old, but he can still get open and still do things for his age.
Yep.
They need to do things more with ASJ and Cameron Brate and all those guys. Just spread the ball around, give it to Dougie, keep ground and pound. I mean, they're going up a great Arizona defense, which, I think they were all shocked when they got beat by the Pats last week because of a bunch of fill-in guys. But just keep doing what you're doing. I do have a little concern with their defense. Their secondary was a little weak last week against the Falcons, going up against the Brown brothers and Larry Fitzgerald. Man-to-man coverage, or what do you think they should go to, the not man-to-man, but should they do some double teams on Fitzy, or what do you think they should do to maybe solve the Brown coverage on those guys?
Yeah, I mean, Larry Fitzgerald showed everybody last week that, even though he's a little up there. Exactly.
He ain't done yet.
He still has plenty to do. And, I mean, look, I had John Brown. I think he got thrown at 4 times and had like 8 yards. I mean, but he had concussion problems in the preseason, and I'm just assuming that he's, not quite there yet. Even though he's been cleared, you can tell that he just, it wasn't a good way for him to start the season. Look, I have the Cardinals' defense for fantasy, and it concerns me because of that rookie corner that you were talking about. I expect him to get worn out. I mean, so that's my concern. From the Bucs standpoint, Carson Palmer started that game, against granted it was the Patriots defense, but it looked a little slow. The offense for Arizona was not that juggernaut per se, that we saw last year. So
totally agree with you on that one. Yes,
I want to see, especially with all the attention and the Cardinals GM saying basically unacceptable, for that, which it's kind of hard to disagree with him. I mean, when you look at all the guys for New England that didn't come, I mean, 2 offensive linemen, I mean, no Gronk, no Tom Brady, your best pass rusher possibly, and Chandler Jones not being there anymore, and they come in and basically, squeak out. Yeah, it was close, but
you know what? I don't want to see it at all. You can be sluggish. I don't want to see it. No, I don't want to see it at all. Defense, there's a little concern for me for the Bucs. Levante David and Robert Ayers, they're questionable right now with a couple of injuries last week during the game. I know Robert Ayers twisted his ankle during the game, so he did not practice on Monday. And I think he sat out on Thursday as well. So we'll see if they're going to be in the game. Hopefully they will. This is my game of the week. We've got 2 good teams going against each other. I love what the Bucs are doing right now. I think they're going to shock the world, beat Arizona in Arizona, and then come back home 2-0. I think they're going to shock the world in this game. Frank, what do you got?
I'll flip. This to me is a flip of the coin game.
Okay, this is your flip of the coin game this week.
Not because both teams are like so bad, and it's like this is a hard matchup. I have Arizona winning it, just because I got to see. I'm going with the assumption that there's going to be some fire in them after what happened in their opening game at their stadium, and just take a mulligan, whatever you want to call it, for that first game, and then say, all right, look, season starts today, this weekend, let's go out and handle our business. But, the Cardinals defense does have some weaknesses, and for all the hype with Chandler Jones and everything, I didn't see much of a pass rush, on the Pats. So, but I do have Arizona winning.
So we got a question for Billy Gunn on the Facebook Live feed. Is Jimmy G going to go 4-0? Not a Pats fan by his means, but is Tom Brady revenge tour going to be the end in an undefeated season and a Super Bowl? No, I don't think Jimmy G is going to go 4-0. I believe he'll go 3-1. I had the Pats going to the Super Bowl because you don't want to piss off Tom Brady coming back after a 4-game suspension. It was kind of funny. I watched or I listened to Twitter yesterday. I was looking at Twitter. I guess he's been trying to get Wes Welker to come up to his house and play catch with. Pretty funny. Wes Welker's eating dinner. He's like, man, I get a call from Tom. He's like, come up and play catch with me. I was like, you don't like to play catch with your beautiful hot wife Giselle anymore? You need Wes Welker to run routes for you, man. I guess he's calling up the old guys. Call Randy Moss, for God's sakes.
I mean, at least for Wes Welker, he can't get a concussion, playing catch with Brady.
I got you. Okay, so Eric is chiming in, of course. If that happens, I say the Bucs lose their home opener, and this year they are a road team. Well, you know what? I disagree with you. And since you're talking about my team, let's talk about your team. Let's talk about the Eagles and the Bears coming Monday night on Monday Night Football. Eagles and the Bears. We want E-Dub to call in. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk about the Eagles versus the Bears coming up Monday night. Don't forget to call in 813-699-5353. This is HNL3.com. This is A Whole Nother Level. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. It is A Whole Nother Level. So we teased this going into the break, and Eric was calling out my team, saying the Bucs were going to lose. So we're going to talk about his team, the Philadelphia Eagles, going into Soldier Field and playing the Bears. Oh, and look, it's right on cue. Yes, we all know who it is. Mr. Eric E-Dubs Wilson. Let's go, buddy. Let's talk about your team.
So just because I gave a prediction, all of a sudden now you want to start calling me out about my team, and how you, and I believe I heard Frank also say that y'all have the Bears winning this game.
Yes, you heard us correct. There's that laugh I know.
That's funny. That is so funny. So let me get this straight. You two gentlemen sitting there, and I'm pretty sure that the sports expert that he is, the one Dwayne Lindo and the one and only Craig Cousin, I'm sure it's going to be a 4-on-1 battle come Monday night. But let me remind you, gentlemen, of a couple of things.
Oh, here we
Number
go.
one, the Chicago Bears have Jay Cutler, a man with all the talent in the world, but doesn't know how to produce it on the field. Okay? They lost Matt Forte. No disrespect to Jeremy Langford, but you lost Matt Forte to the Jets, and we saw what Matt Forte is capable of doing. Who is their wide receiving core right now? Can you guys please answer me that question?
Well, you've got Alshon Jeffrey, and you also have Kevin White.
Okay, all right. So
pretty
let's
decent.
Take Alshon Jeffrey.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take Alshon Jeffrey here for a minute. You're talking about a guy who basically he's getting up there in age. Excuse me, and from what I see, is not even in the top 10 of wide receivers right now. Then you got Kevin White, who, by all straits, is an up-and-coming. All right? Great guy. I'd love to see what he's able to do over the next couple of years. But you're talking about Monday Night Football. You're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles and the Chicago Bears. Let me remind you, gentlemen, of something. The last time the Eagles played the Bears in Soldier Field, do you know what the score was?
I'm sure you know. And let me ask you a quick question, Eric. You consider 27 old because that's how old Jeffries is.
For a running back?
No, he's a wide receiver.
I'm sorry, wide receiver, excuse me.
27 is old?
Listen, he hasn't produced enough for me to even call him an average wide receiver.
Okay.
But then again, look who he has throwing to him. Jay Cutler, a guy who doesn't care. Getting back to my original point, the last time the Eagles played the Bears in Soldier Field, the score was 54-11. You know how bad it was? We had Nick Foles and Michael Vick at the quarterback position, and our offense just ran all over Chicago. Now, granted, you had back then Shady McCoy. You had Jeremy Maclin. You had Deshaun Jackson. So we could bring guys in like Chris Polk who could run it up the field for 50, 60 yards, basically coming out of nowhere and just destroying that Bears defense. I haven't even touched on them yet. Here's what I will say to you. For all the talk that you gentlemen want to put on my team, let me remind you of something. The Philadelphia Eagles, opening day, with a rookie quarterback, beat an NFL defensive-less team in the Cleveland Browns. RG3 got injured. So if you actually think that my team is going to go into Soldier Field and just because it's Monday night, we got a rookie quarterback and the lights are on, you think we're not coming prepared for this? Please keep thinking that all the way till the end of the game Monday night, because what's going to happen is very simply this. And I give all credit and love to John Fox as a head coach. He's a defensive-minded coach. He's able to take teams to the postseason. I expect the Chicago Bears to be good, not on Monday night, though.
As much as we love you, Eric, we're going to disagree with you. Okay, you have an Eagles team that went up against the Browns. May I remind you, the Browns. You're actually going up against a NFL team this week when going into Chicago. And this Chicago team is no slouch. So I think we all thought they were going to be mediocre this year. They actually look a little bit decent and look a little bit improved, if you don't mind me asking. And may I remind you, the Eagles have a horrible defense. Their run defense is tremendously horrible. And I'm going to put those two words together, even though they shouldn't be going together. It's tremendously horrible. Jeremy Langford is going to run all over you guys. Don't get quiet on me, Eric. Don't get quiet on me, Eric.
No, I'm not getting quiet on you. While I appreciate you feeling that the Chicago Bears are going to run all over my defense, again, it looks like I have to educate you. Jim Schwartz is our defensive coach. This guy has had top 10 defenses in his entire career. Do you honestly believe we are not going to watch the game tape from the Cleveland game, which say what you want about Cleveland. They are one of 32 teams in the NFL. So, therefore, it was an NFL defensive squad that Carson Wentz, my rookie, faced and was able to beat them. Say what you want about them, but we still came away with a victory. Now, it is a true test for us to go to Soldier Field to face the Chicago Bears and to face, more importantly, John Fox, a well-respected head coach. But Jim Schwartz has got all the defensive guys looking at this tape this week and saying, okay, listen, this is how we are going to stop Jeremy Langford. This is how we are going to prevent Alshon Jeffries and Kevin White from making the long, deep ball threat that we know Jay Cutler can throw the ball when he wants to. But it starts and ends with Jay Cutler. Which Jay Cutler are we going to see Monday night? Because I guarantee you this much. If he comes out there and plays like a house of fire and can do what we all know he's capable of doing, it's going to be a long night for my Philadelphia Eagles. But I am praying, I am hoping, I am wishing, I am wanting the apathetic, mediocre, complete disgrace of a quarterback that is Jay Cutler to come out there Monday night. And I want Fletcher Cox to hit him. I want him to hit him hard. I want him to hit him fast. And I want him to hit him off. So you know what? Say what you will. My rookie quarterback is going to start his season 2-0. And you heard it here first.
Frank, go ahead. I'm speechless on this one.
I have this being a fairly close game. I don't have a ton of confidence in the Bears for some of your points, but I do think John Fox, year 2, another year in the 3-4 system. Look, we're talking about defensive coordinators. Vic Fangio did a pretty good job with the Niners, in years past before when Harbaugh was there and they were actually pretty decent and worth watching. I have it like a 24-20 kind of a game. I think Carson Wentz is for real. I think he is going to be a good quarterback and probably will play well. I think Chicago is, one of those teams that I think they are on the come up. I don't think it's going to happen this year, obviously. But, look, 7 wins, 7-8 would be an improvement from last year and, keep climbing that ladder. But I do have the Bears winning, though.
That Bears. Well, you know what, Eric? We will enjoy watching the game with you at your house on Monday night, enjoying your Philly cheesesteaks that you will be, preparing for us, even though the Bears will beat the Eagles. I mean, that's all I have to say about that.
Kevin White's a West Virginia guy.
I'm glad you feel that way. Just remember, as you are enjoying dinner,
just don't spit in my food.
Swallow.
Yeah, just don't spit in my food.
You're going to have to swallow a piece of humble pie at the end of the night. Because when Philadelphia beats the Bears, and I'll say 27-24, we'll keep it close just for argument's sake here. I want you to remember one thing. Frank, to all your points, which are always factual, valid, and just the most consistent I've ever seen, the one question mark that you have to ask, which Jay Cutler is going to show up? And I'll leave you gentlemen with that. Great show as always, gentlemen. I'll talk to you later.
All right, have a good one. We'll see you on Monday night.
See you, Eric.
All right, well, we've got – I thought he was going to be a little bit more fired up than that. I really did.
He might be saving it for Monday night.
I think so. So we got a question on the Facebook Live feed coming from my uncle Larry. What is up with FSU? Well, FSU is a second-half team. They're going to be okay. Let's not push the panic button on yet, even though they're down, 28-10 going into halftime, probably. So I'm not going to be worried just yet. They've come back from deficits that big before, so I have no worrisome with FSU. They're a second-half team.
Bobby Petrino is the example that Art Briles is looking at like, oh, man, I'll get another coaching job in the NCAA. Because for all the problems that Bobby Petrino has had at Louisville, at Arkansas, and now back at Louisville, he wins. I mean, his offenses are good. I mean, he had Arkansas at number 3 in the nation at one point. He leaves, however that ended per se, but and now you got Brett Bielema there, and you're fighting to stay in the top 25. It's like he can coach. I mean, man.
I will. Okay, now I might push the panic button. It is 35-10 now. All right, I'm a little worried now. Thank you, Billy, for giving me the update on the score. All right, so we want to go into the other games before we take another quick break, and then we're going to go into some fantasy football talk. So we've got Baltimore and Cleveland. Frank, who you got in this game?
I'm going with Baltimore. I don't feel real good about it, of course, but again, Josh McCown, I believe, will be under center for the Browns.
He will.
And look, I never thought I would ever say this, but he might actually be an upgrade.
Not by much, though.
Over RG3. I don't know if I can say that he's an upgrade, but given that first game and what I saw, from the Cleveland offense, it's like, man, I mean, it's hard to imagine that he can do any worse. Look, I mean, Baltimore didn't look good in their first game, but what's the cure for a sluggish offense? The Browns defense.
Right.
So I mean, I got the Ravens winning.
I've got the Ravens too. I think I was really a little bit surprised at how Baltimore did their first game. We saw maybe a resurgence of Mike Wallace getting going in this year. Flacco's healthy. Everybody's healthy on that team again. I've got the Ravens. The Browns are just a dumpster fire, as we all know, so I've got the Ravens in this one. Tennessee and Detroit. Frank, who do you have?
This is one of those games that, of course, again, I told you before the show, Detroit's offensive coordinator is my favorite offensive coordinator in the NFL.
Cooter.
Jim Bob Cooter.
Cooter.
I mean, you can't say that name enough. I mean, it's just – but, I mean – what he did, I mean, it was the Indianapolis defense, so it's like, okay, pump the brakes. But Detroit finished last NFL season 6-2. So it's not like they just, started off good. They finished the season pretty well last year. Get their win in their opening game. They got the Tennessee Titans. I mean, everybody was like, oh, Calvin Johnson's not there. I mean, look, Marvin Jones, I mean, Golden Tate, I mean, Theo Riddick, Amir Abdullah. I mean, they actually looked like a pretty decent offense.
Yeah, I was surprised too when I watched that game. I think we're going to see maybe a surprising Detroit Lions team throughout the year because the way Stafford just took his guys and fired them up. He took a mediocre wide receiving core and actually made them look great in that last game. Now, granted, they're playing Indianapolis, and we all know Indianapolis' pass defense is horrible, but they looked like an actual good team with playing against Indy. So I wanted to have this as my flip of the coin game, but I looked at it even more, and I say I'm going to have Detroit winning this game. I have Detroit. Now, I'm going to actually have Detroit by a lot in this game. Okay? So let's move on to we're probably going to see a shootout from these two teams. We've got New York against New Orleans. Ooh. I know, and I'm saying the same thing. It's I'm licking my fantasy chops because I have Drew Brees as my quarterback, and well, we all know New York's defense is really shitty too, so it's part of my French. But we've got New Orleans, we've got New York. These two teams, I'm hoping a shootout. Frank, what are you hoping for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing. The team I'm playing this week has Drew Brees, so I'm not really optimistic. And given, I believe it was last year or the year before. I mean, what was the final? 52-49.
Yeah, it was a shootout.
So I mean, I see no reason that it not be that way again. I'm hoping that the Giants defense, at least they brought in some players and upgraded it. Janoris Jenkins is there now, so their pass rush is a little better. But man, I know Drew Brees is going to put up numbers. Brandon Cooks, I mean Snead. But see, the Saints defense, I mean, we're talking about bad defenses. I mean, it's possible that it's the worst. I mean, even worse than the Browns, and that's saying something. And I think that the Giants have better weapons offensively. Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, Jennings was running the ball. Actually,
he actually looked good. Yeah.
Yep. So I got New York.
I have New York as well. I think with the weapons with ODB, Victor Cruz is back. Everybody, the salsa dance is back. Sterling Shepard too, and also Rashad Jennings being an actual running back. I've got New York on this, but I've got this as a high-scoring game because their defenses are both terrible. So I've got New York in this one as well. So we'll move on to a divisional game. We've got the Cowboys versus the Redskins, both 0-1 teams looking to get their first win of the season, and actually a division game too as well. So Dallas and Washington, Frank, who do you have for this?
I have the Redskins winning. I think, I mean, look, the Dallas Cowboys offense is not the Pittsburgh Steelers offense.
Right.
So, and I'm sure that, Josh Norman is going to find himself in the zone scheme around Dez Bryant. But until Dak Prescott shows that he can throw a deep ball and teams have to respect, Ezekiel Elliott and everything, they can just load the box. I mean, and shutting down. And, if you look at it, has Dallas still won a game without Tony Romo? I mean,
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Until I see that, until and even for their own psychological beliefs, they need to know that they can win a game. I think without Tony Romo, but Dallas' secondary is garbage. And look, Jordan Reed, who I am starting this week for my fantasy, and Deshaun Jackson, I expect them to have good days. I'm
going with the Skins as well. As much as I would like to see, have a Dak Prescott have his coming out party, I do agree with you that the Cowboys defense is porous, and I think with Kirk Cousins under center, he's going to spread the ball around with Deshaun Jackson, Jordan Reed. I've got a close game on this one. But I do have the Skins pulling out the win and having their first divisional win. So, okay, we move on to San Francisco and Carolina. Now, we all know there's going to be controversy with this game because of Mr. Kaepernick and everything. But the San Francisco Giants, I would say, shocked the world when they blanked the LA Rams on Monday night's game, which was a terrible game, in fact.
Yes.
So now they face Carolina, who's coming off a loss against Denver, a game they should have won and beat the Broncos. Frank, who do you have with the Niners and the Panthers?
Somebody should have been fired for that being a Monday night game in the opening NFL season. But I got the Carolina Panthers. I mean, I would have never guessed in a million years that Blaine Gabbert would get, that the Niners would score 28 points in that game. And that game got Jeff Fisher, I think, on a contract extension, which we'll get into that in a little bit when we get to the Seattle game. Yeah, don't really understand how that works, but look, Carolina, this is the game, to take out their frustration from that Denver game, basically. And I expect Carolina to roll over the Niners. I think it was just more of a bad LA Rams team than a good 49ers team.
I'm going to go with you on that. I have the Panthers just beating the snot out of the 49ers. I think we're going to see the 49ers that we all expect to play in Carolina. Look, the Panthers defense is too good.
Yeah.
Too good to let the 49ers even score on them as well. And with the chip on the shoulder that Cam Newton has, I think he's going to have a great game against the Niners defense. I've got the Panthers all the way. So now going into this game, this is my flip of the coin game. I've the Chiefs and the Texans. Two good teams. This is my flip of the coin game this week because these two teams, and I was when Kansas City played San Diego last week and came back to win.
Yeah.
After a huge deficit, I was like, all right, Chiefs are back and they're legit for this year. I mean, coming out of that game, but this is my flip of the coin game. Honestly, I have the Houston Texans winning the division. Just with that defense coming back and Alex Smith taking his team and beating. I mean, I know it's nap time, the San Diego Chargers, but whatnot. Okay, so I'm flipping my coin. Boom, I'm going up. I'm actually saying the Texans are going to win against the Chiefs. I just think Texans' offense is way too good.
Here's what I've said this before, and I've taken a lot of criticism for it, but I don't know. You may not have heard this. Alex Smith, to me, is a backup quarterback. I don't want him as my starter. I'm blaming that first game on San Diego's defense more so because his body of work, and yes, they won 11 games in a row last year, 10-11, and he got them to the playoffs. And they scored, I believe, they blanked the Texans last year in the playoffs 28-0, I believe.
Well, that's because the Texans had Brian Hoyer and then threw like 8,000 picks in that game. So
Alex Smith gets you field goals typically, not touchdowns. And I have the Texans winning it as well because I think, look, Will Fuller looks like
it's a breakout.
It's one game, but, man, he is fast, and you put him opposite of DeAndre Hopkins. And, look, you said it. Who was throwing the ball last year? And DeAndre Hopkins was putting up huge numbers.
Yep.
So I at least believe Osweiler is not worth all that money, but he's better than what they had last year. And, look, Lamar Miller coming over, getting, for Miami helps, and I expect that the defense is going to be better. I think this is going to be a good year for the Texans. I have them winning that division as well.
All right, so now we touched on this when we talked about the Niners and the Panthers game. The Rams and the Seahawks. How does Jeff Fisher get an extension after losing that bad?
He has pictures of somebody.
He's got to. How do you get an extension after that game?
He knows something about the ownership. He's got to have some emails, WikiLeaks, or something. You can't even make this up.
It boggles my mind that he gets an extension. And that game was so bad last week. They had people calling ESPN and ABC saying, please take this off the air. It was so bad. And that's a legit thing that happened. People were calling the affiliates and calling the networks going, take this game off. It's terrible.
How do you extend him? You just moved to a new city, a city that hasn't had an NFL team in years. You want to excite your fan base. You had the #1 draft pick, Jared Goff. Street clothes.
He was in sweats and a T-shirt.
And wasn't hurt. He wasn't even hurt, and he couldn't even crack the top 3. It's like, dude, Jeff Fisher is somebody said it this week that he coaches like it's still 1999. And, yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with that point.
I just don't understand. Okay, so now Goff has actually moved up to the backup role. Fisher said that this week. But you pick this guy. Is this your number 1 pick, and you don't start him? Come on, take a cue from Philadelphia. They started their number 1 pick, and they won a game. And he did pretty well, actually. It boggles my mind that you can give this guy who's been mediocre his whole coaching tenure at Tennessee, and then when he went to St. Louis, he's been mediocre at best. Now, I think he's been 500 the past few seasons and nothing more.
Yeah, he's been hovering like 7-9, 8-8.
8-8. Yeah, so it just boggles my mind that you can extend this guy after that poor of a first game, and which was supposed to be, this is the new LA Rams team, and you get demolished by the Niners.
Coaches have been fired for
less.
Yes,
for less.
I mean, that's what makes it. It's like you see some guys get fired. I mean, Marty Schottenheimer went 14-2 one year and lost his job. So, and to see this, I mean, Jeff Fisher is still living off of that Super Bowl appearance with the Rams that he didn't even win. I mean, at least if he would have won it, maybe you could say, well, he's won a Super Bowl. He's gotten to a Super Bowl with Steve McNair as his quarterback. But man,
you have OCs that get fired for putting up points, and they get fired. But you get a coach that gets blanked, and you could extend him.
I don't even know how you could sell this to your fans or your season ticket holders. I mean, if I'm there and you call me about season tickets, and
hell
I'm like,
no.
Jeff Fisher's still the coach?
Hell no. Give me a discount. Give me a press box for $10 a game because I'm not going. That's to me. I don't know what ownership thinks. You bring a team to L.A. to bring football back to L.A.
Yep.
And then you extend a coach that coaches really a bad game. I just don't understand. If you're going to try and you're trying to compete with those other sports, with the Lakers, the Kings, the Clippers, and you're going to try and compete with them, it's not going to happen.
There's too much to do in Los Angeles to go watch bad teams.
Exactly.
I mean, people won't go.
Exactly. All right, so we're going to get off from that. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to go in the other games, and then we're going to talk about some fantasy sports because I know you guys want to hear some fantasy football aficionados as myself and Mr. Factual Frank Mazzei is. So when we come back from the break, we're going to wrap up our picks for this coming week. We will give you guys some fantasy knowledge, and then we will go from there. Of course, you guys can call in at 813-699-5353. If you guys want to call in during the fantasy part of the show and ask us some questions, please do. We will answer those as much as we can. This is the whole nother level. We'll be back in just a minute. Of course, it is myself, L. Bushman, and the factual Frank Mazzei to my left. As I said at the beginning of the show, we are down a couple of people. But we will be back strong next week. But, hey, we're doing a pretty good show without the guys. So, hey, enjoy your vacations this week. That's cool. But, hey, of course, you guys can listen to us every Saturday, 1 to 3 p.m. here on Spreaker.com and Raw Talk Online. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. We're there on iTunes, so please subscribe to us and listen to our shows because every show gets put back on the iTunes site. You guys can listen to the playbacks. Of course, we will be on Tuesday nights, so we're doing a double time each week. So Tuesdays at 7 p.m. here on Spreaker.com, where we wrap up the Sunday games and also Monday games as well, and then we'll lead into the Thursday night game as well. So, Frank, Indy and Denver. We all saw what Indy did last week. Denver pulled out a win against Carolina for the opening game. They looked, they looked all right. Mm-hmm. Trevor Siemian looked like he may be the quarterback that's going to succeed Peyton Manning. Mm-hmm. Indy's defense looked terrible.
Yes.
Andrew Luck, he was slinging the ball. I think he had 4 touchdowns in that game. Who do you got in the Broncos-Colts game?
If you have a bad offensive line, the last team in the NFL that you probably want to see on a Sunday at this particular point is the Denver Broncos.
Yep.
I mean, look, Andrew Luck. I mean, Carolina's offensive line. I mean, the Denver defense has made it look, mediocre at best. It's a decent offensive line. Mm-hmm. Indy's is not even decent.
Terrible.
I mean, look, I think I can't remember. Is Denver the team that put Andrew Luck out last year, or was
I think it was Denver? Yeah,
injuries from that game or that caused his problems? I mean, look, Andrew, man, get everything in order, get everything updated. I expect Andrew Luck to take a beating. I mean, to be honest, and that Denver, even that their offense, it's not going to be a juggernaut. But against that defense, I mean, anything is possible. But I got Denver easily winning this game.
Defense wins games, and I think we both said this in our preseason picks that the Colts are going to be really bad. They're going to be last in the division. So, Andrew Luck's he doesn't have much offense. I mean, T.Y. Hilton is you're pretty much your only weapon. Your offensive line is not giving you a lot of protection. Frank Gore is Frank Gore, and he's an aging Frank Gore, and he's not like the guy we saw in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I know Moncrief is a decent number 2 guy, but with that defense, you're going against the Broncos defense. Okay.
Yep.
Now, Denver's offense is a little banged up wide receiver. Demaryius Thomas is hurt, but you still have a serviceable Emmanuel Sanders in there. You still have C.J. Anderson, who looked pretty good his first game against Carolina.
Yep.
I just don't see Indy getting any better, especially going against the Broncos. I have the Broncos beating the Colts, so I'm agreeing with you on that, Frank. So let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons and the Oakland Raiders game, which is one of the later games tomorrow. I've got the Raiders in this. What I saw against the Saints is what I had wanted to see out of Oakland for a long, long time. They're now that young team that's going to surprise a lot of people in the league this year. They are my dark horse for this year. The way they came back and just Derek Carr got everybody fired up on that sideline. And I will say this. Jack Del Rio's got some huge balls for going for it all on that 2-point conversion to win the game. So I've definitely got Oakland on this game. And we all said this before. Matt Ryan has regressed. The Atlanta Falcons just look out of place. They look just not there together yet as a team. I mean, we saw it against what happened with Tampa. I mean, Tampa just came out firing all cylinders against the Falcons. I've got Oakland in this game. I've got Oakland in this game by a lot.
I have Oakland as well. The thing that I like most about Jack Del Rio going for the 2 points is that he called that at the beginning of that drive.
Yep.
It wasn't after they scored, we're going for 2. He told Derek Carr, when we score, we're going for 2. So it's Derek Carr knew the whole time that basically that they were going to go for 2 when they scored, And just the fact that he did that, planted that seed, I like it. I like the fact that he did it. I like the nucleus that they have there. I mean, Latavius Murray, Amari Cooper, Crabtree, and Derek Carr. I mean, my goodness. I mean, the Texans could have, of course.
I think the name Carr was soiled when David used to play for him, so I don't think they wanted to touch another one.
Khalil Mack, I mean, the defense, I mean, you gave up a lot of points, but, I mean, it's Drew Brees. Drew Brees is going to put up – he's going to put up numbers on pretty much every team that he plays this year. It's just they're still not going to win a lot because they don't have a defense. But I like Oakland in this one. All
right, Jack Del Rio walked out of that stadium with his balls and a huge wheelbarrow saying, this is what I just did to your team and your house, New Orleans fans. Okay, so we're going to move on to Jacksonville and San Diego. San Diego. Nap time in San Diego, as I usually say. And now, did you notice, Frank, that after Keenan Allen got hurt, that everything just went down the tubes for San Diego against Kansas City last week? Did you notice that?
Yeah, they were up 21-3 in that game, and I was like, whoa.
It's a wrap for this game.
And so for them to lose it, that being said, I don't feel real good about it, but I am going to pick the Chargers. They are at home. Look, Jacksonville looked good against Green Bay, and Green Bay is a legitimate, a playoff and Super Bowl contender this year. And I like Jacksonville's young nucleus that they have. They let me down too many times last year in games where I thought this was their moment. This is the day they're going to step forward. They're playing a team that they're supposed to beat, and then they came out and would just lay an egg. And too many times I've been burned. Philadelphia or San Diego, at least, I think the best thing they did in the offseason was they got Ken Wisenhunt back as their offensive coordinator.
Well, Frank, I'm actually going to have to disagree with you on this pick. I actually have the Jaguars beating the Chargers, and only because this young nucleus of a team. I think what they're doing right now with the Allen brothers, Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns, they've got Chris Ivory back for this week, so they have a two-headed monster with him and Yeldon. Blake Bortles, if you keep up with the Packers like they did last week, I think you're going to do pretty well in this league this year. They're one of my dark horse teams for this year. I have Jacksonville just beating up on San Diego. I think what they've done is just molded a team that's probably going to break through this year. And like I've said before, San Diego takes naps during games. I mean, they were up 24-20. Was it 24-3 in that game?
I think it was
24-3, and then you just hit the snooze button and you let Kansas City come back on that game after Keenan Allen goes down. I just have Jacksonville beating this team in San Diego. All right, so our last game for our picks, a real good one each and every year, Green Bay and Minnesota. Now, the Vikings are without Teddy Bridgewater. They've got Sean Hill in the back under center. This is always a good game.
Yeah.
Because these two teams play physical. Mm-hmm. They don't really like each other too much. Now, you're in a new stadium. They're actually playing the first game in their new stadium, a very beautiful stadium as is. Yep. So if you're the Minnesota Vikings and you're coming off of a loss of last week, where they held AP to 46 yards per rushing, I think?
I believe so, yeah.
What is it going to take the Vikings to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, Frank? What do you think is going to take for them to beat the Packers at home in their new stadium?
A miracle. I mean, look, I mean, it's a rivalry game, and Minnesota has gotten Green Bay in the past. And look, if Teddy Bridgewater was there and all things were equal, I'd have no problems picking Minnesota. Minnesota's defense it's pretty good.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer's done a great job with that team.
I mean, when you're still rotating Sean Hill and Sam Bradford, and you don't know who you're going to play yet, and it's like, I mean, man, it's hard. It's hard to get excited about your offense, especially Adrian Peterson, 47 yards, because nobody's afraid of Sean Hill.
Nope.
I mean, and nobody's going to be afraid of Sam Bradford, really. I mean, load the box, shut down Adrian Peterson, and, by all accounts, you'll win the game.
So it is confirmed that Sam Bradford is actually going to start this game. I'm going with Frank. It's Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Jordy Nelson is back. Yep. We all saw that in their first game. With what they have in Minnesota with those young talents with Stephon Diggs, but I just think with Bradford coming in and starting, and he's still learning this offensive scheme.
Yeah.
I see a lot of miscues. I see a lot of drop. I just see a lot of overthrown passes with Bradford, and I never liked Bradford to begin with when he went to Philadelphia. So
no.
I have the Packers beating the Vikings. I have this as a low-scoring game because Minnesota's defense is really good.
Yeah.
I like what Mike Zimmer's done with his team and his defense, but the offensive if Green Bay is going to do one thing is load up the box, hold AP to another 46-yard rushing game, and just get on Bradford if he's starting this week. Just get on him because he's not very mobile. He's got bad knees.
Yep.
So if Green Bay can get to him, Green Bay is going to win this game, and I think they're going to win by a lot. Yep. All right, guys, so those are our picks for this week. We're going to go take a really quick break, and then we're going to end the show with some fantasy football talk. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your questions for us to answer for this week. So if you got them, call in 813-699-5353. When we come back, we will go into our fantasy football picks for this week. We'll be right back. This is Whole Nother Level. Welcome back, guys. It is a Whole Nother Level. Okay, so we're going to wrap up the show. We don't really do this a lot, but we're going to do some fantasy football talk. We've got some stardom sit-ems for this week. So if you are in DraftKings and FanDuel, and if you're doing Yahoo, ESPN, or NFL.com for your fantasy football needs, we've got some advice for you. So, Frank, we're going to go. We'll start off with the stardoms this week. You've got any stardoms for your fantasy teams and whatnot?
Look, if I have Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, I know it's a gimme. You're pretty much going to start him every week. But, I mean, the Saints defense, I mean, that's a lock and a no-brainer.
The flip of the coin on that, one of my stardoms this week is Willie Snead.
Yeah.
Snead had a very quiet game against the Raiders. I didn't know until I saw the stats. He had like 150 yards on that game. So, he's become one of Breeze's really favorite targets besides him and Brandon Cooks. Willie Snead, if you have him on your team, he is a must-start for, I would say, a low-level wide receiver too, maybe even a flex option if you're looking to play in PPR. Plug in Willie Snead. They're going against the Giants D, and this is looking like a shootout, like we said earlier on the show. So if you got Willie Snead, and if he's still available on the waiver wire, pick him up.
I expect Emmanuel Sanders. I might move him in. I mean, the Indy defense.
Yep.
I mean, if I have him on my team, he's probably coming off the bench.
Another one of those guys I picked as well. I mean, with Demaryius Thomas a little bit banged up, and we don't know what's going on with Demaryius Thomas. He's had drop issues. He's been hurt. I think ever since he got that huge contract, he just hasn't been the same guy. He's got his money, but yeah, I've got Emmanuel Sanders filling in that wide receiver one role against the Colts' horrendous pass defense going in this week. So I know probably Emmanuel Sanders is pretty gobbled up in all the drafts for low-level picks and late drafts and everything. But if he's still available, I would maybe sling him up. And if you got him in DraftKings, I'm sure you can buy him low for about $5,000, maybe $6,000 for fantasy this week. So, yeah, Emmanuel Sanders is a pick of mine. One stardom I have for fantasy this week, and I know Eric's going to probably call the show again, is I have Jeremy Langford as a stardom this week against a porous Eagles defense. You got to remember, the Eagles gave up 137 yards and a touchdown. Oh, here we go. We've got a caller coming in. Caller, this is a whole nother level. I know you got some fantasy question. Matt, what is going on, buddy?
Mr. Bush, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. This is Matt D, everybody, from the Mad Talk Show, which you can hear him live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on Raw Talk Online. So, Matt, I know you got some fantasy questions you've been asking me all week. So what do you got, man?
So I wasn't able to attend my live draft, so I kind of messed up, and I got some bad running backs. I got decent wide receivers, but I need help going ahead and getting who to start. I got two running backs I need to start, and I got Thompson, Yeldon, and Hyde. What two do I start?
Frank, you want to take this one to start off with?
No, I'll defer.
Okay. All right, so you've got T.J. Yeldon, you've got Carlos Hyde, and who was the other one?
Thompson from, I think, Chris Thompson, I think his name is, from Washington Redskins.
All right, so, wow. Okay, so Yeldon's going to split carries with Chris Ivory.
Yep.
Ivory's, they said he's not out anymore. He's questionable, but it looks like he's going to be in, but the role he's going to play is going to be limited. So the bulk of the carries are going to come with Yeldon, but of course they're going to probably give Ivory some time. I would maybe,
Dallas's defense. I
Yeah.
mean, I would. Thompson would probably be one of them.
Yeah,
just
Thompson, yeah.
Based on the fact that Dallas's defense, no pass rush. I mean, their front seven is pretty much god-awful.
If I had to pick, Matt, I would go with Yeldon and Thompson.
Yeldon and Thompson?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll try those out because I saw Carolina stats last week, and they put up the Broncos running back put up some numbers versus that defense. And
Well,
they
you
do have a pretty stout.
You got to look at this. Okay, the Niners are going against the Panthers, who lost.
That was my other question.
So with that matchup, you're playing Carolina, who lost a pretty close one to Denver. They're going to be angry. I don't want to go up against an angry Carolina defense. And I think we're going to actually see the Niners we expect to see is a bumbling, stumbling team that's going to lose pretty bad to the Panthers. So I would avoid Carlos Hyde against the Carolina Panthers this week.
I'll go ahead and scratch them off. Now, I've got 5 receivers. I need to start 3 of them.
All right.
Javon Curse from Seattle. Alphonse Jeffrey from Chicago, which I feel like he's an automatic starter.
He's an automatic start. Start him, no. So he'll plug him in as one, yeah.
And then I got Tajay Sharp from Tennessee. That's my boy right there. And then Jordan Matthews and Michael Floyd.
I would go Sharp and Floyd.
Yeah, I would do the same thing. I like Sharp. He's emerged as a speedy receiver for Tennessee, and he's actually a deep pick for me in deeper formats. I would go with him. I think he's going to be one of those top receivers that's going to sneak up on you. I like him. So he's a low-level wide receiver 3, but since you've got Jeffries And who do you else? I mean, Jordan Matthews. He might get a touchdown out of him against the Bears. So you can even put Jordan Matthews in there as well. So I would say Jeffries, Sharp, and then you can do a flip of the coin of Matthews. And who else you got?
Javon Curse.
I would do Matthews, Sharp, and Jeffries for your 3.
Okay.
I would do that.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, I was looking at numbers, and, Michael Floyd didn't get very many targets. And then the way Carson Wentz and Jordan Matthews went ahead and played last week, I mean, they did play pretty phenomenal. They seem to have a good, good chemistry on the field. Not just that, with Carson Wentz actually being 5 for 16 for throws in the air, 15 yards or more. I mean, yeah, he was my sleeper. I wasn't sure about Matthews. So.
Yeah, I would plug him in because you never know. I mean, he might get a touchdown out of the Bears defense. All right, Matt, so you got anything else, man?
No, man, I do appreciate it, brother.
No problem, man. Well, guys, make sure to tune in to the Mad Talk Show every Wednesdays at 8 p.m. You can hear Matt just make Chaz just have another stroke, usually, because he drives him nuts. So, Matt, it's good to hear you, man. Take it easy.
Take care, man.
All right, yeah, wow, he's got his wide receiver cores. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. So I have a deep pick for my stardom this week. I have Tyrell Williams in San Diego. Since Keenan Allen went down, Philip Rivers is going to have an option. He's got a couple options to throw to. He's got Antonio Gates, but with Tyrell Williams, he's kind of like a Sharp. He's kind of like Tajay Sharp. He's like one of those guys that's a speedy receiver that he's going to have to rely on since Keenan Allen's going to be out. So if you can find Tyrell Williams, I would maybe scoop him up as a flex position this week. So Frank, do you have any sit-ems for this week?
Oh, I have Carson Palmer on my bench.
Okay.
Even though, I know the Tampa secondary defense is not great. But going off a week 1 performance, he looked a little sluggish, and I don't expect it to be that juggernaut that it was. Look, I'm never going to say sit Antonio Brown, but the Bengals defense is actually it's pretty good. I mean, it's better than the Redskins defense is as well. Andrew Luck would be on the bench. I know he's going to probably put up some numbers, but I expect him to be on his back more than Andy Dalton was last week.
I have one sit-em, but it's a collective of sit-ems. It's anything that has to do with the Rams offense. Anything. Yeah. And I'm saying this from a guy that has Todd Gurley as one of his starting running backs. With what we saw against the Niners, I would try to avoid anything from the Rams. I'm at through the point, if they don't do anything this game, I'm in a selling mode for Todd Gurley.
Did you ever think you would say that?
No,
at
never.
The beginning, before the draft?
Never.
I mean,
and he was my first pick. I would have never have come to the conclusion and to the option where if they do bad this game, I'm going to have a sell. I would even sell low on him because the way he started off the season. If he has a bad game, I'm going to be like, he's on the block. I need something for this guy. So if you have anything Rams related, avoid them at all costs. Sit them. And I know it's not much because you got really only Tavon Austin and Todd Gurley. So if you have Todd Gurley, I would be really wary about starting him today. I'm actually trying to scour the waiver wire for any kind of running back I can maybe plug in to salvage my game this week, even though I'm getting my butt kicked right now by some of that Matt Forte.
Same here.
So, Frank, if you got nothing else, I think we're going to end the show. Guys, thanks for tuning in. This has been El Bushman, and of course, to my left is Factual Frank Mazzei. You guys can listen to us this coming Tuesday at 7 p.m. It'll be myself, Eric, and Frank will be back once again, of course. And then you can also listen to us every Saturday at 1 p.m. here on Raw Talk Online, Springer.com. Guys, we thank you for tuning in. This has been myself, E-Dubs, Craig Cousin, Dwayne Lindo, and Factual Frank Mazzei. This is A Whole Nother Level, and we will see you next week.
Gee, mate, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.